They came from the sea, Norfolk and Portsmouth. They came from the swells and the surf, the spindrift and the tide. They came from the sea, from ancient ships, from courage and high adventure. A lighthouse stands where they first touched foot and claimed the land. The harbor of Hampton Roads is recognized as the world's finest natural harbor. It has long been said it is so large, it could hold all the merchant fleets of the whole world at one time. Making up the port area are Norfolk, South Norfolk, Portsmouth, and the peninsula. Through Hampton Roads moves 57% of the total export tonnage shipped from Atlantic ports, a higher percentage than even New York. On ships that regularly serve the port, you can ship cargo anywhere in the world. In fact, to 286 world ports. 126 steamship lines make regular calls. All in all, more than 6,000 ships enter and depart from Hampton Roads each year. More coal is shipped than from any other port in the world. Loading facilities are the most modern available. Hundreds of thousands of tons of food products are shipped, including corn, rice, barley, rye, wheat, and fruits. The same is true for tobacco, soybeans, synthetic rubber, chemicals, fertilizer, and drugs. Everything the world needs, from scrap iron to rolled and finished steel, flows from the harbor. But there are imports too, precious commodities from around the world. Oil is the principal import, running into hundreds of thousands of tons each year. Nearly all the major oil companies have terminals in Hampton Roads. The list of imports is almost as great as for exports, including glass products, gypsum, and plaster rock, iron ore, manganese, and chrome. From Latin America, Cuba, and Asia come bananas and fruits, coffee, sugar, and tea. Naturally, such maritime commerce must be supported by extensive overhaul and repair facilities for vessels of all sizes. Historically, the Hampton Roads port cities were the pioneers of dry docking and shipbuilding in America. At Portsmouth in 1767, the first shipyard began operating at Gosport, overhauling British merchantmen and an occasional man of war. In 1833, the USS Delaware entered the Gosport Navy Yard for the first dry docking in the Western Hemisphere. The dry dock is still in daily use. Today, the yard is capable of servicing any ship that floats. Some of the world's largest naval and commercial vessels are built at Hampton Roads. The world's fastest liner, the SS United States, and the supercarrier, the USS Forrestal. This vast amount of maritime transportation could not develop without the land facilities and railroads behind it. The famous old Portsmouth and Roanoke Railroad was one of the first in America. It was pioneered in Portsmouth in 1832 and became the Seaboard Airline Railroad of today. Now, 8 other major railroads serve Norfolk, Portsmouth, and the peninsula. This magnificent system of railroads moves freight from a tremendous area and funnels it through the great port of Hampton Roads. But it's the Navy that brings Norfolk and Portsmouth its particular flavor. In this area, more than 40 admirals direct operations of the world's mightiest fleet, the largest concentration of naval strength in the world. It not only contains the ships and the men, but the headquarters of the United States Atlantic Fleet. 85 buildings are needed just to store the fleet's supplies. One of these buildings is second in size only to the Pentagon. Adjacent to the naval base is the Naval Air Station. Squadrons of fighters, bombers, transports, patrol, and torpedo planes fly into and out of the air station every day. It is the busiest airport in the country, with a landing or takeoff every 3 minutes. The only naval amphibious training command on the East Coast is also headquartered in Tidewater, Virginia. The amphibious base is responsible for the training of Army, Navy, and Marine forces in this highly specialized warfare. Across the Elizabeth River in Portsmouth stands one of the oldest and largest shipyards in the Western Hemisphere. Here, the frigate Chesapeake was built, one of the first ships commissioned by the Congress in 1798. During World War II, more than 100 ships were built and nearly 7,000 were overhauled, converted, or repaired. Another naval institution is Portsmouth Naval Hospital. It dates from 1827 and is the Navy's oldest. Today, it is as modern as science can make it, bringing the finest medical and surgical care to more than 2,000 people. In 1952, Norfolk was chosen as the headquarters for the first international ocean command by the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO. Supreme Allied Command Atlantic, called SACLANT, is the joint effort of the NATO nations. The colorful semicircle of NATO nation flags flying in front of SACLANT headquarters is one of Tidewater's most famous sights. Naturally, a busy port like Hampton Roads attracts industry. The Ford Motor Company has a large assembly plant in Norfolk that turns out more than 350 automobiles a day. In Portsmouth, the Procter & Gamble Company operates a large plant. Norfolk is the headquarters for several of the biggest mixed fertilizer manufacturing firms in the United States. More mixed fertilizer is manufactured in the Norfolk-Portsmouth area than any other section of the nation. Other manufactured products include freight cars, Portland cement, fabricated wood, and food. Delectable Lynnhaven oysters help make the area famous. The seafood industry ships its frozen and canned products to metropolitan centers all over the nation. New construction makes new. For example, the St. Regis Paper Company has built a $2 million bag manufacturing plant. The Thomas J. Lipton Company has completed a new $2 million tea processing and packing plant in Suffolk. Through cooperative effort, the whole area is entering a new era of growth and development. Virginia Beach helps make the area famous. It's a modern seashore city in a vacation land setting. Thousands of vacationists from all over the nation come to enjoy one of the most beautiful beaches on the Atlantic coast. Bicycles are rented for pleasant tours of the 2-mile boardwalk. The lovely, gentle rolling surf and wide expanse of sand make Virginia Beach a favorite with families. There are recreational events for young and old alike. But the events that take place in nations across the sea or in cities throughout America are of even greater significance to Norfolk and Portsmouth people. Because it is the sea that makes Norfolk and Portsmouth, the sea and its commerce with the whole world. It is the sea and the railroads that connect it to the cities of our land. That's why citizens of the great port of Hampton Roads have a particular need to know what's going on. Even events that take place in foreign lands have the power to change the lives of Norfolk and Portsmouth people. It's important that everyone knows the events of the day because our jobs, comfort, and happiness are vitally affected by world and national events. It is the knowledge of all the people that sets our course by vote and determines the fate of the nation. That's why our founding fathers incorporated into the Constitution of the United States the principles of the freedom of the press. From the wisdom of their oratory came our basic liberty. the freedom of speech, religion, assembly, and the freedom of the press. That's why newspapers bring facts and ideas to our citizens. They must have the information on which to base an intelligent opinion. That's why the Ledger-Star and the Virginian-Pilot are developing every facility to report the news of the world, the nation, and Virginia, and present this news to the citizens of Norfolk and Portsmouth. That's why the newsrooms are teeming with activity every day, covering the news with Virginia's largest news staff. Over the news editor's desk, the stories flow in a never-ending stream. Rewrite men are taking stories from reporters out on their beats in Norfolk and Portsmouth. At police departments, other reporters are interviewing police officials for news of crime, accidents, and disasters. Church editors of the Ledger-Star and the Virginian-Pilot gather news from all denominations, from all churches and synagogues. At the Naval Base and shipyard, reporters are seeking out news about maneuvers and ship arrivals. Other reporters are busy at the courthouse and city hall, talking with officials about government and political developments. Throughout Virginia and North Carolina, correspondents cover news of state and regional interest. At Richmond, your reporters cover the legislature for first-hand information on Virginia affairs. Back in the newsroom, the clacking teletypes trace the pattern of history as it unfolds from Washington, New York, San Francisco, Berlin, Tokyo, and London. With electronic speed, national and international news is flashed from every corner of the world. News that may affect the course of our lives as significantly as events in our own backyard. All these stories, international, national, regional, and local, are funneled over the copy desks. The Virginian-Pilot and Ledger-Star each has its own separate newsroom, its own editors and reporters. There's real rivalry between them because the reporters and editors on each newspaper are charged with the responsibility of gathering the news independently of each other. Each paper has its own flavor, its own features, its own approach to the news. Press photographers are constantly on the go, taking nearly 1,000 pictures a week that add interest to the news, give a clearer understanding of events, add impact and interpretation. Wire photos also bring hundreds of pictures. In just a few minutes, these remarkable machines transmit pictures from all over the world through the Associated Press wire photo system. Pictures are almost like grandstand seats at the principal sports event. One of the largest sports staffs in Virginia covers big games and athletic events throughout the nation. Coverage includes grade schools, high schools, colleges, and amateur and professional leagues. Everything from golf to sailing is covered. Sports are not the only interest of Tidewater readers. Norfolk and Portsmouth are cultural centers. The museum, the historic old homes, the churches, and beautiful new schools all add depth and beauty to Virginia living. Reflecting this cultural depth, special editors and feature writers cover just about everything. Music, art, and good books are reviewed in thoughtful columns, giving pertinent information on what's new and worthwhile. Radio and television programs are given complete daily listings and comments. News of particular interest to women is covered on the women's pages. Special recipes for entertaining or for healthful family dining are offered nearly every day, and home decorating stories appear regularly. And there's society news covering weddings, teas, and club activities. Because teenagers have their own special interests, there are frequent stories about young people, their schools, and activities. There are even bedtime stories for the little folks. There are frequent stories on health and medicine by qualified doctors and medical societies. Business news is of great interest to many readers, so a full-time full-time editor and staff cover local developments and publish stock market activity. Advertising is part of the news, too, because advertising brings information about new products and prices. Display advertising covers everything that's for sale in the area, from groceries to home appliances, automobiles to clothing. The classified ad section provides a vital community service. It's the easiest method for the individual buyer and seller to get together. Messages to buy, sell, trade, hire, rent, or offer services reach 400,000 readers every day. Great newspapers should provide more than news and advertising. They have an obligation to provide informed opinion and wise interpretation of issues. The editors and staffs believe their newspapers have definite responsibilities. The first is to cover the news completely and fairly without prejudice or fear. The second is to express its own opinions honestly on a labeled editorial page. Frequently, the opinions expressed in the Pilot are contrary to those in the Ledger-Star, because each editor reaches conclusions independent of the other. The third is to publish more than one side of a controversial question. Widely differing opinions are expressed by staff editorial writers, plus a host of nationally known columnists, bringing both local and national opinions to Tidewater readers. The fourth responsibility is to encourage readers to express their views. Dozens of letters each week are published so that citizens can make known their opinions. Thus, readers have a background to form their own conclusions. Back in the newsroom, the tempo of activities increases until the deadline approaches. The last stories are popped into pneumatic tubes, which shoot them to the composing room. More than 40 typesetting machines change words on paper to metal type. The keyboard resembles a typewriter. As the keys are pressed, brass molds corresponding to the letters fall into line. When the line is complete, it moves to a casting box where molten metal hardens in the letter mold. Thus, the machine automatically casts lines of type. When a story is complete, it goes to an assembly bank where several proofs are made of each story. Then proofreaders compare proof of the type with the original story, making corrections. While this is going on, the engraving department is busy changing photographs and drawings into metal plates. In the composing room, pages are being made up. Headlines, stories, pictures, and advertisements are grouped for a pleasing balance. Each page is locked up and sent to the stereotype department. A thick, soft paper called a mat goes over the page. Then both run through a roller press that squeezes the soft paper against the type and pictures. Pressed into the soft paper is an impression of the page. The mat has become a mold. Newspapers are not printed from flat pages of type. High-speed presses use curved plates called stereotypes. To make these stereotypes, mats are placed in a casting box where molten metal takes the exact shape of the page mold. In a few seconds, the metal hardens and the stereo plate is removed. They roll along conveyors to take their places on the high-speed rotary presses. When everything's ready, a touch of a button starts the mighty presses. paper creeps at first, and then gains speed to flash through the press like lightning. These presses can print more than 10 million pages a day. And on they come, words, pictures, stories, news of history in the making. Like a river, they flow from the presses to the mailroom to be distributed to Tidewater readers. Thousands of papers are counted and bundled for distribution throughout the area. All in all, nearly 1,000 men and women participate in producing your newspapers. Waiting trucks are loaded, and they pull away on schedule. More than 100 trucks and contract vehicles travel over 25,000 miles a week, delivering their cargo of news to distribution centers in Virginia and North Carolina. 2,000 route carriers make over 1.5 million deliveries every week. They are capable, responsible young men. In addition to earning money, they gain valuable character-building experience, learning to meet people, to handle money, to keep their own books. At your front door, they deliver the news. News that has traveled from the far corners of the world or from just around the corner. News you need to know to be an informed citizen, capable of intelligent decisions on today's complex problems. Norfolk and Portsmouth are growing metropolitan areas. As they grow, their problems multiply. Your newspapers recognize their responsibilities to the area for healthful community growth. Through editorials and news stories, they bring facts and ideas about housing, redevelopment, and traffic congestion to its readers. Such information gains support for worthwhile projects and prompts constructive action. As a result, the slums of yesterday are disappearing. Unsavory eyesores are being replaced with clean, modern, wholesome dwellings where adults and children can live with new confidence and self-respect. New bridges and tunnels move cars and trucks in and out of congested areas. Each year, your newspapers shoulder the responsibility of promoting and publicizing the community chest drive, helping to raise money for the support of charitable institutions, needy people, and orphaned children. At Christmas time, the Joy Fund raises money to bring joy to those who need it most. A newspaper must be a good citizen, alert to the interests and welfare of the people and the communities it serves. Norfolk and Portsmouth came from the sea, from the swell, the breakers, and the tide. From the sea came their strength, their commerce, industry, and growth. Virginia and her cities by the sea play an increasingly important role in the affairs of the nation and the world. Through the newspapers, our citizens shall have the information and knowledge to face the problems of tomorrow. Each day, each hour, the news will flash from around the world. Skilled writers will report the local scene. Fair-minded men will form opinions, action, and decision. Men will set type on modern machines. Casting boxes will be hot with molten metal. The news will flow in an endless stream. To keep our minds informed about development, change, and growth. Every day the world will reach our doorstep, extending our eyes and ears to new horizons to help us realize the destiny of the cities by the sea, Norfolk and Portsmouth.